we can't turn our state over. Our state is not for sale. I'm running a Florida First campaign, which means
All right, so we're sitting here with gubernatorial-elect Paul Renner. He was nice enough to come out
I like
here.
the elect part.
Yeah,
We're not quite there yet.
Not there yet, but we're there. We're getting there, right? So we got all you guys out here to do midterm interviews, and we started with Byron last week. We had Bobby Williams, Paul Renner, we have Jay Collins, and we have Fishback, and we're trying to get the information out there and let people understand what you stand for and who you are, and the rest of the gubernatorial candidates for governor. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
Well, I'll start with family. I had my family come in and join me in Tampa last night. Been married 13 years to my wife, Adriana. We live in Palm Coast. 2 kids, a 5-year-old daughter, 4-year-old son, which are great years. The background, and I think the real thing that kind of sets apart me from the other candidates is on the leadership front, a lifetime of leadership under pressure, starting at a young age in my early 20s. In the Navy. So first of 2 wars, Desert Storm, navigating through mine-infested waters, leading a small team with EOD personnel to destroy those mines. 20 years later in Afghanistan, leading a team of men and women to stop foreign fighters from coming in to Afghanistan to kill Americans, one of which was Iran, by the way. And then in between that, so active duty in Desert Storm, and then became a reservist, went to law school, became a prosecutor in Broward County. And so for those that don't know Broward County, it ain't Lee County. It's harder to be a prosecutor there, but had the opportunity to try violent habitual offenders and have to prove to the jury, beyond a reasonable doubt and unanimously to put that bad guy away so he wouldn't create another victim. Started my own business, partner in another business. So I've got the business experience as well. And then fast forward into more recent times, in the legislature, became Speaker of the House, which is the leader of the legislature. The Republicans the caucus has to decide who they want to lead. They chose me, and we had what Governor DeSantis called an unmatched 2 years. He said it was the 2 most productive, most conservative, consequential 2 years of any state in America at any time, which is a pretty nice compliment. But we did that, I believe, because as a veteran, it's about focusing on the mission. There's too much ego in politics. There's too much, politics in politics, frankly. And these guys get all wrapped up in their own personalities and their own self-elevation and thinking about their next office, and they forget about we the people. And so what we did as kind of the adult in the room and as a veteran, I said, guys, we're gonna fix these problems. People that said could not be solved. Getting after the insurance problem, we made a big step in that direction. There's more to do, and I'm going to do that. Getting after protecting kids online, providing parents with universal school choice to send their kid to a school that teaches their values and fits their needs. All of these things we did, ending DEI, going back against ESG, constitutional carry, protecting life, all these things, protecting law enforcement through a HALO Act, were done on my watch as a leader of the legislature, and it's because you focus on getting the job done. Nobody wants to hear your endless words. They want results. And nobody in this race comes anywhere close to the results that I delivered in those 2 years. And so as an architect of the free state of Florida, if you like it, we're going to protect that legacy that the governor has. We're going to continue it, expand it, and that's what I'll do when I'm governor.
Well, I absolutely like it. I love it down here. I'm from Jersey. I'm retired as a law enforcement, and what I saw in the 90s in Jersey, it would have changed to today. It disgusts me. When I moved down here, I see a lot of things. One of the things I want to bring up, you brought up schooling. So my big thing with schooling is with these AI and the AI data centers and all these jobs going to be lost. We all know it's coming. You got a lot of kids going to college right now for jobs that aren't going to exist in 5 years. And we know this, between the robots, between the AI. Do you have any roadmap for schooling? Me personally, I think vote tech is something that we should be concentrating on with these kids, and not so much a lot of book work, I wasn't a good math kid in school. I wasn't a good student. I was good hands-on. And there's a lot of kids like that, and there's not enough jobs. So we know there's no electricians, we know there's no plumbers, there's no HVAC. Do you have any plans to make vote tech a priority in the school system in Florida?
At 100%. And you remember, the old saying, everybody's got to go to college, everybody's got to get a 4-year degree. That was pushed and pushed and pushed. And that was like a big lie, because in my county, my plumber has had a stroke. He's had a minor stroke. He's trying to retire. He has nobody coming up behind him. I mean, nobody. And so, and those are good jobs. I always joke because I'm an attorney and I'm in the office billing at Friday afternoon late. And the guy that went to high school with me that started his own, ultimately got his own plumbing company is playing golf. As he should. I mean, there's a lot of good jobs and you can make a great living, HVAC, all these different skilled trades. So we have to get after that. And we did some of that when I was in the legislature in a good way. We've got to continue to lean into that, and I will. That was the last part of your question. And the first part, though, I wanted to come back to is AI. I know this is a real story. A supporter of mine, his daughter went to University of Florida, graphic design, completes a 4-year degree, okay? And she spent all that time, great school. She gets out, no job. She's working in a bakery. Why? Because now with AI, I can say, hey, I want to start my own bar, and I want a logo of a dog drinking a beer. And AI can do it like that, right?
That's what we use.
Right, and it's free, and it takes 30 seconds, and now her career is done. I mean, is there still places for that? Yeah, but you got to make sure you're teaching them how to pair that with a tool of AI so that person who's a professional can use it in a way. And so we have to be more nimble. When I was on the board of governors, we talked about it was that there's no more 5-year plan in college. I mean, because it's going so fast. And so we have to get ahead of that for our young people that are coming up. We're doing them a disservice if we're not allowing them to in real time change that degree. So when they do graduate, they have something that's tangible and will make good money for them for the rest of their life.
We bring up AI. So a big thing with my viewers on social media and his viewers on social media, I see it a lot everywhere, are these data centers.
Yep.
Nobody wants the data centers. They want to keep the farmland. They want to keep the groves. They want to keep the cattle. The data centers, I watched them, again, from New Jersey, I watched them build all these data centers, and I watched my mom's bill go from $200 to $400 in 1 year, 1 year jump,
Yep.
Same month, same time period.
Yep.
So how are we going to make sure that the data centers aren't pulling off of our grid and causing our money to go up? Now,
Yeah.
I know that they talk about them building their own power plants and things like that, but that affects the environment, that affects the places around there, and that's what people are worried about. People just don't want these data centers in Florida. What's your opinion on these data centers and your opinion on the future of Florida?
Yep.
Are we going to keep it green and cattle and groves and try to bring some of the groves back, or are we going to turn this into a parking lot? That's my question.
Yeah. Well, if that's what your listeners care about, I'm your guy. I'm your next governor. I need your support. I need you to go to voterenner.com and sign up as a volunteer, throw $10 in the pot or whatever it is, because AI data centers, I'm the only candidate in the race. It's called for a full moratorium. I've rightly criticized my main opponent for a build first, ask questions later approach. We can't have that. Just because you got a bunch of money from the tech bros doesn't mean you're going to turn our state over to litter it with AI data centers. And you're absolutely right. These 1 gigawatt facilities, depending on who you ask, are the equivalent in power of a city of 500,000 to 750,000 people. Imagine in Cape Coral, you plopped one of those down tomorrow. Nobody in this room, nobody listening to this podcast would ever believe anybody that tells them, oh, no, we papered it over. We've got a law that says it, won't pass it. Nobody believes that because it's not true. And then separately, they use a lot of water. And I'm all over the state. I'm talking to people of modest means who are on water restrictions. They're watching every day their yards dying. And you're going to let somebody come in and put a huge pipe in the ground and suck our aquifer dry. No, the answer is no. And so I would challenge, I know you've already talked to some people, but challenge the people that come through there. Would you join Speaker Renner in calling for a moratorium on all AI data centers? I've said it online. I'm saying it here on this. I'll say it to the TV. I'll say it to anybody. I'm on record. And that's the right thing to do. And what I've said too is they need to bring their own electricity and bring their own water. Of course, they can't do that, which is a nice way of saying don't come. And you're right, but I mean, the only way they could do it, and I'm not going to stop AI, I get that, and I use AI, you guys use AI, but I just don't think Florida's a good fit for it because of the water usage and the way we're structured, and also our electric grid. This is the other piece of this, is you see these solar farms, if you go out in our farmlands, also being bought up by these huge solar farms that are scarring the landscape. It violates 3 principles that I wanted when I was Speaker. We didn't get it done, I'll have to say, but we're going to get it done when I'm governor. Deliver the lowest possible electric cost to the doorstep. Make it domestically sourced, not depending on China. Make it reliable. Solar, listen, if you want to put a solar panel on your house and go off the grid, I'm all about it. You do that. you're right, you know. But what the electric companies are doing right now is they're going all in solar only because they want to be, you know, net neutral, whatever it is, you know, to their shareholders. They're pursuing that green new scam, you know, incentives deal. Still, it is not the cheapest. It is much more expensive than natural gas, clean coal, nuclear to deliver. So and they get paid based on how much they spend to create that new power. They spend more on less efficient solar. You pay more. Right. That makes no sense at all. They should get paid more when they save you more. And so it violates lowest cost. Is it domestically sourced? Where do the solar panels come from? China. Where do the batteries that store the power come from? China. And it's not reliable because in Texas, you had that freeze about 5 years ago. 200 people died because they went all in on renewables. Again, nothing wrong with renewables as a part of the mix, but they were so dependent on it, it's not reliable because even in the sunshine state, it doesn't shine 24 hours a day. And so that power was not available. And you saw Duke in this last freeze we had say, hey, don't use your power between 5 and 10. Like, I got 2 little kids and it's 20 degrees out. I'm not supposed to turn the heat off? And so we can't turn our state over. Our state is not for sale. I'm running a Florida first campaign, which means where I disagree, I'm going to do what's right for we the people. I'm not going to do what's right for donors. And you can give me money if you think I'm the best governor, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get what you want. I would point to when I was speaker, Enterprise Florida, which was that corporate incentives, I call them corporate welfare, you know, to pay taxpayer money to let Amazon build a warehouse in Florida. I shut that down. And a lot of people that had given me money before, I'm sorry, you know, if that's why you're giving me money, don't give me money. Because that is not where taxpayer money should be going. Nobody would say that that's their first, second, or third choice for $1 of taxpayer money to go to some company to come in and compete against a Florida business, a brick and mortar business like this. And so you've got to have somebody who's focused and understands that the way lobbying works, and I've seen it, I've fought big tech on protecting kids online. I fought, you know, the people with a lot of money, is that the money is so far tilted over in the direction of special interest. You better have somebody that gives a little bit of a darn about what's in your interest, or Florida's going to become for sale. And I think the governor said this out loud, is that people are licking their chops to have somebody come in that's a tool of donors and is going to do whatever the donors want. I'm not doing that. I don't care what money people give me. They're not giving me that. Those people are not giving me money anyway. The data center guys are not with me. I can promise you that. We're going to protect Florida. We're going to protect the electric grid. We're going to make sure your costs are the lowest possible cost, made in the USA, and it's reliable. It goes on when you turn it on.
Well, you answered that question. I was going to ask you about lobbying.
I don't care about that issue at all. You got me a little worked up. I mean, that one bothers me. I mean, because we're literally just going to turn the state over, and then we can never go back. It's too late.
For sure. So you would say that lobbying is becoming a problem, because I was going to say a lot of people don't know if they can trust the person they're voting for anymore, because whoever writes the biggest check is basically who they answer to. So you think it's actually becoming a problem.
And there's you know, broadly speaking, obviously it's a continuum, but broadly speaking, there's 2 kinds of politicians. There's people that are affected by that check and will do whatever the donor tells them to do, and there's people that are not. I have to raise money. I have to raise a lot more money. We've raised $6.5 million, but I have to raise more than that. But a lot of the money we're getting is like, look, you're the real conservative in the race. We know you'd be the best governor, bar none. We're giving you money. And then you have a lot of people, well, you know, are you going to win? You know, this in the special interest, where are you going to be on this? And I'm not for sale. And you have people that take money. They have to. The president has to raise money. Governor DeSantis had to raise a bunch of money, but they're not turning around and doing whatever. They're doing what's right. And then you have a lot of good men and women in the legislature. The governor's a great example of that. You know, what people love about the president is he's going to fight on what he believes is right, whether you agree with him or not. He's going to fight for what he believes is right, regardless of who's giving him money. And that's what I'm going to do. And there's people that, if you'll put them in power, if you'll make them somebody, they'll talk on your talking points.
Well, and I feel like a big problem we're having, especially with the Republican Party, is it's like they're all talk, and then at the end of the day, when it comes to voting, they'll vote along with the Democratic Party. You think rhinos are a problem?
Yes. 100%. 100%. Think about, the Democrats had a 50-50 Senate, and they wanted to totally remake America with a tiebreaker from Kamala Harris. We get a majority. And great, we did the big, beautiful bill. It had some good stuff in there, but like Elon says, it can be big and beautiful, but not both. And it had a bunch of pork in there too, but we got there were good stuff in there, but that's all they've gotten. I mean, what have they done since then? They had a dog show, but they can't get the SAVE Act passed up there in Congress. I mean, they're absolutely dysfunctional. And I got to say that, you know, basically the same men and women are in the state legislature, but we passed our budgets not on time. We passed them early. We were done. We weren't wasting taxpayer money hanging out in Tallahassee. We passed a balanced budget, record tax relief. We took some of the little bit of debt we had and working with the governor, we passed paid some of that down ahead of schedule. So we're going to get to the point when I'm governor, we will have no state debt, which means we're not paying interest that you guys were all paying for. Mm-hmm. This state legislature hasn't gotten a budget done one time on time. That's their one and only constitutional duty, is to pass a balanced budget. They have 3.5 months, 4 months, or whatever through committee weeks and a 60-day session to do that. We're in year 2. They don't have a budget. And meanwhile, have they done a thing to help affordability? No. There's not one proposal on the ballot as we speak to cut $1 of property tax. That is a total failure of leadership. And when I'm governor, if you've got people like that get elected and they're not going to do their job and they're going to go have fun at the governor's club and sleep around and do whatever they're doing, we're going to have primaries. We're going to go find patriots, men and women who want to fix the state's problems and get those people out of office.
And this is another thing that I see a lot online is the Palantir, the flock cameras. Nobody wants that. I grew up in the 90s. I read the books, the futuristic books. This was the outcome that we did not want going to school. We did not want the outcome where these cameras are watching us every day, that they have access to everything that we do, the money, no matter where you go. What are your thoughts on Palantir and the flock cameras in the state of Florida?
I don't know as much as you know on that, but let me speak to the issue, which will answer the question. Is, we're heading, and again, I'm not an anti-technology guy. There's things that AI will do on medical diagnosis, help us and make our lives longer and healthier, I'm sure. And we use it like we use it for research or whatever. But we're heading into a brave new world. And I was at a security conference yesterday. It's like where we are now is Pop Warner football. And you go to college, they run faster, they hit harder. That's technology. So all the threats from technology, and this conference was about China, about terrorists, using AI. But imagine a water plant. I mean, it's a little bit off of your question, but it's related. Is imagine a water plant, and they had this scare in Oldsmar, back in 2021, where they were going to change and put like enough chlorine to kill people, basically to harm people. Imagine when a human being's no longer controlling that mix to kind of sanitize the water, and it's AI and it's hackable, at a high level. Imagine we get to quantum technology where, according to what they've briefed us on, is that if China gets to quantum technology before us, they could literally break any encrypted system in the world in an instant.
So you think it could be used as like an act of terrorism?
They could shut down. Oh, let's go back to the solar for a minute. I know I'm off your question. I promise I'll get back to it. On the solar farm, so this is interesting. So China produces most of these solar panels, and so we've been taking this stuff for a decade or more before somebody finally said, maybe we ought to like bring all this stuff over and like break it down, like have the intelligence guys like break it down. And they found kill switches in the inverter boxes, meaning that in a hot war, China could say, lights off.
Absolutely.
From the solar panels that they sold us. So we got to be smarter about this stuff, guys.
Well, especially China's allowed to buy farmland that is around all of we got bases all over the country, obviously. That's a huge problem. Yeah. And I feel like that should not be allowed. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, when I was speaker, and I'll give kudos to my friend Jay Collins. He was a Senate sponsor. I was in the House. We passed that bill. I think it needs to be strengthened. I don't think it's strong enough. I think it can be evaded. We made a good first effort because it needs to be done. I would like to see us roll that back. I don't want them to, under any circumstances, if they've already bought it, they need to be out, because that's absolutely happening. And again, if you're talking about who's ready to be governor, having been an intelligence officer, I can tell you there's a lot of things that keep me up at night, because I know who's really here. We've got spies in this state. I mean, they call the Space Coast Spylandia because of all the stuff there. And it's the old joke. It's like, hey, if you're a dude in a bar and some really attractive woman comes in, bro, it's not she's like way out of your league. She's a spy, man. It's not your special night. She's a spy.
Honeypot.
She's a spy.
Honeypot.
And so, we have to be really careful as Americans. Like, we're all about freedom. We're doing our thing. Nobody's going to hurt us. We're in America. No, they're here. They're here looking for every way they can to undermine us. And now we're, in some respects, doing it to ourselves, where a lot of companies, and I saw this with social media, they would rather addict your kids and monetize them for profit than do the right thing.
Speaking of that, I got a question for you. So there are a lot of creators we get canceled on these platforms, right? Because you don't go by the community guidelines. So, for example, for me, the day before TikTok was supposed to pay me, they decided they were going to demonetize me. So they don't want to pay me for my content anymore. How is that a fair thing for creators that you've used my videos, you use my likeness, right? You got the views, and then you don't want to pay me for it the day before. I feel like there should be some kind of protection for influencers where, you know, we can kind of keep our followers.
Yeah.
And these tech companies. So yeah, a lot of guys don't use TikTok, for example. When TikTok was purchased from China, they did a mass ban, and a lot of followers left TikTok because of that. So like the influencer world, we get screwed over constantly because we're talking about the real things that they don't want us to talk about, and we're constantly getting demonetized, constantly getting platformed. Do you have any take on that?
Well, I mean, let's just say this. So what you just said it, and we were having this conversation a minute ago. Think about the fact that Chinese Communist Party owned TikTok. They sold it. Now it's in the hands of the big tech guys, and it's worse.
For sure.
Let that sink in a little bit.
Yeah.
And so the answer to your question is yes, because we started the internet. I was right there with like, hey, don't regulate the internet. Just let it be free. I'm a free speech guy, right? Let it be free and get the government out of it. And there's a place for that. But what's happened is it's become so much a dominant part of our life. And then these companies say, well, First Amendment doesn't apply to us because we're not a government entity, right? Because the First Amendment restricts the government from restricting your speech. But they become so dominant. And you saw during Biden, they were adjacent to the government where they were being basically used as a proxy or an agent to cancel people that spoke up against COVID restrictions, you name it.
Still going on.
And it's still going on. And there's First Amendment doesn't cover us. So my point is like, I'm a free market, don't regulate kind of guy to a point. But the more I observe, the more I think we gotta use the power. When we get power, we've got to make sure that these people aren't destroying our country, that these big entities are not just, that are all focused on making money, and they've lost their love for America. It's all about just weaponizing what they have regardless of the consequences to us, and that is not okay.
I totally agree with that. So my other thing is, you talk about the First Amendment, you talk about the government restricting free speech. So as a police officer, we had social media policies. My question is, I understand private companies with their social media policies for their employees. How is the government, the United States government, the Florida government, all these states allowed to suppress the freedom of speech of their employees? So a lot of guys, they see stuff, they can't talk about it, right? So you're not allowed to talk about certain things online because they'll fire you. Now, I'm not talking about the outrageous stuff. These guys, they go on there and they threaten people. I'm talking about saying what happened to me during the day on my job. I can go to work the next day and get fired. Yeah. Why is the government allowed to squash the freedom of speech, the First Amendment of government employees? Does that make sense? Do you understand?
Yeah, no, it does. It does. I mean, if you're saying I'm going to shoot the president or something, that's a different deal. But I agree with you. And look, I said in I know we got a picture of Charlie Kirk over here. I love that guy. And yet when people were asking me the question, I said, you know what? I'm a First Amendment guy. Let people say the gross things that they're saying about they're glad he's dead, because voters need to understand, if you're voting the other way, that's what you're voting for. You're voting for people that are okay for people that disagree with him to be assassinated. And so the First Amendment part of it is understanding and allowing people to say offensive things, because we need to know who they really are. They're speaking out of their heart. Right. And if they're going over the top, so I would let them go pretty over the top. I think that I've seen some issues where, like, if you've got somebody that's saying, and there was this issue in Florida here recently, if you're an anesthesiologist or whatever, I'm going to like turn the dial up on somebody who's a conservative. Well, that's a different deal. And we license you to take care of everybody. I'm a doctor. I don't care if you're a Bernie bro or whatever. I'm gonna try to save your life. That's my job as a doctor. And so that's a different situation. But no, we should have. And that's what's special about our country. Look at Britain, our ally. I mean, they're terrible if they don't have a First Amendment. But I mean,
tons of cousins
they censor people all the time, and so we have to be. It means we have to take hits. I mean, people say false things. We were talking about this earlier. Say false things about me. I gotta suck it up, because that gives me the right to say things that I believe in. You can't, come and arrest me for it. You can't cancel me for it. We can't have conservative cancel culture either. Is my point. Is if we're talking about the governor, you can't cancel people just because they say things that offend you. Mm-hmm. If they're going to hurt people, that's a different deal.
I appreciate you coming, sitting down with us and talking with us. And
Thank you, guys.
I
Yeah.
wish you the best of luck because I really do like you, Paul. I really do.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be with you. And again, for your listeners, go to voterenner.com. We'd love you to follow us on, Facebook, on X, on Instagram, all the different channels, and get involved in our campaign. We'd love to have you on our grassroots team here in Lee County.
I appreciate you. I really do. Thank you for sitting down with us.